So, I am joined by the Kero Quest 64 team right now. Hi everyone, how you doing?
Hey,
Hi,
doing
doing
good.
great.
What's up?
Big congratulations. The game was backed on Kickstarter. There are still some stretch goals to meet, like getting indie game characters in there, and that's still very obtainable because there's a bunch of days left in the Kickstarter right now. But first off, I want everyone to know exactly who you are. So can you introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Melon. I'm a modder. I started when I was I think 10 years old. I was barely into PCs back then, but I really liked playing Mario 64, and I knew I wanted to make games as a living. So I started making with the tools back then. I started making custom levels for the game, and it was cool. And then I just moved on to making other mods and ROM hacks throughout the years. I made Mario 64 Online, and now I'm making Kero Quest.
I'm BroDute. Probably people on the SM64 sphere know me for making countless Star Revenge hacks. Been making them since 2012, and now also working on Kero Quest.
I'm Riyadh. I've just been modeling random things for no particular reason, for fun. I've tried to make models for the Gary's Mod workshop and a Source Filmmaker workshop, eventually figuring out that I could just do things in Blender without that, and I've just been modeling things for fun, and I've been involved with the project mostly for the character models.
So what kind of ties you all together is you're all big people in the community. A lot of you have been doing Mario and Zelda ROM hacks for a long time.
Well, for the most part, it's BroDute is a very big name in the Mario 64 community, right? At some point, the decomp ROM hacks, there was this decompilation of the game, and that became the hot new thing, and BroDute was yeah, screw all of that decomp stuff, if you just want a quality ROM hack with quality, good old levels, that's what I do.
And you know Mario 64 inside and out at this point, so it's such a unique angle to then go on and make your own IP with all of what makes Mario 64 so good at the forefront of it. It makes Kero Quest incredibly unique.
Yeah, I feel like each of us have its own unique thing to bring to the game, but not only for the game itself, but also outside of the game. For example, BroDute, yes, he's making the maps, he's making the level design, he's 3D modeling a lot of objects as well, but he's a big part of the story as well and how we should ship the game. I'm more of the administrator of the game, if that makes sense, where I handle business contacts. I handle reaching out to people and asking them how we can do things and market the game. And I'm also the one that found our publisher, Galaxy Trail. And Ryan is more the person that is going to give us, well, I guess it's more Ryan is really going to be the person that is going to experiment with a lot of things, and we can see if we like some of the things or if we don't like them. And I feel
I like to think of simple things like UI elements or little animations where I'm this could be a little more unique and polished, and then I come up with something that I think is unique and polished, and then BroDute and Madden go oh, this is too distracting, or it's too big, and I'm it's fun though, right? I want the game to be best it can be, and I'm not gonna program a full movement, but I like to polish the little corners.
Yeah. And I feel all of that together makes us a really team that focuses on polishing and makes sure that the game is probably not going to be as big as Astrobot or something like that, but I feel what sets us apart from other indie games is the polish and the quality of the things we make.
There's a lot of faith from your publisher as well. They also did Freedom Planet, which is a huge game. A lot of people backed just knowing that.
As well, so.
You guys invited me to play this game back in October, and you launched your Kickstarter in the second half of December. So that's not a huge span of time to improve. And yet, the build that I played is pretty drastically different to what is publicly available right now. The speed of what you have made and how much fuller the world is extremely surprising. So I'm kind of curious, how long has this game been in development for? Because you seem to just move on at a really steady rate.
I started thinking about the game in October last year when I got laid off from my video game job. So that was okay, well, I need to do something until I find a new job, it never ended up happening because the game industry was looking for seniors, and I'm not a senior. So I ended up starting to think about making an indie game, which I messed up with some prototypes in Unity. You can probably see them on screen right now. I have some videos of that. But and then I approached BroDute at some point, and I was like, "Hey, BroDute, I'm making this game. Do you want to help us? Help me with thing?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna leave modding and help you with that." And then from there, we started production in, I would say, June, and then shortly after we invited Ryan to help with character designs and modeling.
In terms of like other 3D platformers, it's pretty rare that anything actually matches Mario 64. They tend to go for a very different vibe in terms of controls. And yet, Kero Quest does. It doesn't replicate Mario 64, but you can tell the building blocks are from there. So how challenging was it to go from ROM hacks with that pre-established toolset to rebuilding the actual movement from scratch?
Well, Melon had like a pretty good base, but like, a few stuff like how slopes work, how high triple jump and whatnot needs to be, so there's always a discussion between me and him, adjusting stuff until it feels right.
And then there's like very minor things, like lately I was just like, hey, there's a few jumps that could be a little more frog-like, right? The backflip, I've been thinking, if you sit down like a frog instead of like how you sit down currently in the game, like, would it make more sense if you did a handstand? It just like, some things look like they could be more frog-like without significantly changing how they work. So we might experiment with that a little bit.
You get a big benefit there with the wall jump as well, because a lot of Mario 64 experts, they can do the wall jump no problem, but many people playing for the first time struggle with wall jumps. And you get that frog-like nature where you kind of stick to the wall for a bit before sliding down, and that's a pretty big advancement.
That was actually something I just added for fun, because my idea with that was like, okay, I definitely don't want wall kicks from Mario 64 where you have to be almost frame perfect to like do them. But I also, at some point, we had wall jumps. I don't know if you look at our Bluesky account, you can see like some old footage. I actually had a wall jump, but like Mario 64. But at some point I was like, okay, well, this feels a little bit too like Mario 64. Can I change the animation? So I changed the animation to the one where he's like holding the wall with both hands, right? But I was like, wait a minute, like wouldn't it make more sense if he stuck to the wall for a couple seconds before starting to slow down like a frog? So I added that, and I sent the video to Ryan and BroDute, and I was like, do you think that's good? And they were like, yeah, sure. And that was how it came to be. It was just something I added because I wanted to change the animation.
I think there's another point in how this differentiates itself from Mario 64. 'Cause that game has a large hub world that connects all these levels together. Kero Quest feels more like it flows in one big world. Like you go to another screen and it's another level, but it's still part of that sort of interconnected world. In what other ways does this differentiate itself from Mario 64?
Well, for one, how the coin system is handled. Like if you die, you don't lose your coin progress. You keep them all saved.
Yeah, they duplicate as silver coins rather than gold ones.
It's like a better version of Banjo-Kazooie, where in Banjo-Kazooie, if you die, you restart from the beginning, you don't save anything. But at the same time, I think the Xbox version of Banjo-Kazooie added so that the coins do save, the notes do save, but they don't reappear, right?
That's right,
They don't reappear after you die, they stay gone forever. We definitely wanted something where we want the player to like re-enter the level and still be able to do things in it, collect things, even though it doesn't really matter, just the feeling of collecting something. We still wanted that to be there, so that's why we added the silver coins, just trying to make it so that, like you might re-enter this level post-game, but it still feels a bit new, like you can still collect stuff, kill enemies, and discover new things about it, like, and new movement options.
Yeah, the coins also help with like, considering their healing, it would be pretty bad if they just stay away forever.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed is, if you've gone a few paths and collected the coins there, you can kind of tell, oh, these are coins are silvers, but these are still gold. I've never been there. Might as well go that way now.
It's a really good way of waypointing. It's interesting as well. A lot of your collectibles have very unique objectives, but every level does have that sort of like collect a certain amount of coins to get this one. like how Mario 64 had like 100 coins per star, but you've got way more coins than you need to collect to get those. So it's not like you're scavenging around looking for that one coin you missed through the entire level. It's a lot more freeform. You can leave the level and come back. It just feels way more flexible that way.
Yeah, I've never been a huge friend of the 100 coin stars, especially in Mario 64. So in my hacks, I usually put it down to like you only need 80 and put like 200 coins, so you don't really need to bother that much with them, especially in harder stages. And same then with the red coins, I lowered it from 8 to 6, but still kept 8 around. So if you get the case of, oh, I can't find the last 2 coins, you don't need to do that endless search, just get 6 of them and already get a star.
In terms of where you're going from building upon Mario 64, you've also incorporated things like the spin, which is a bit similar to Mario Galaxy. You're not taking out of levels, kind of like Mario Odyssey. It's interesting how you're modernizing the game, taking inspiration from games after Mario 64, but also getting your own ideas in there too. Let's talk a bit about objectives a moment, because you get very playful with the sandbox, which is also really great to see. There's one collectible where you have to just hit a ball into a goal, like football or soccer. And it just feels so, like, it breaks up the action in a really great way. Are there lots of different collectibles like that one?
I think that's more more like a BroDute question, but I do agree that like the soccer goal is like a really good distraction because you see the ball. Like every time somebody's going to see the ball, it's going to be like, oh, that's a ball. Cool.
Yeah.
It has physics. I don't know what to do with this. And then they explore around a little bit more and they see the goal and they're like, oh, okay, I got to bring the ball inside the goal. And then they get a reward for thinking that way, which is, I guess, a lot rewarding. But BroDute can tell you more about like the different objectives and how he comes up with them.
The ball thing was kind of like a random thought of idea. Like we browsed a few ideas what like the villain of could be, and someone linked it to football a bit, and then I kind of like, hey, what if we add a soccer ball? What if we add a goal? And that shot kind of existed.
So are you looking to do more objectives of that style as well, just to sort of mix it up rather than just finding things lying around?
Now and then. I am more of a platformer guy, so my level design mostly is like give a bigger area that you can just circle around in, or it branches off until you get to a platforming section.
I think it could be cool if there was like a level where there's a soccer goal somewhere around the beginning, and like as you traverse the level you find like a soccer ball atop the mountain and you gotta figure out how to get it down to the correct spot.
And that's brainstorming ideas for the game. I also like how you have a lot of verticality in there, but there's also, as you get higher up, you can sort of open up more shortcuts for yourself, whether it's like opening a way to a pipe or getting blocks that appear that you can just sort of climb up easier. So there's always that frustration when you fall off a really high area in other platformers, and you've made it a bit easier to just get back to where you were in a lot of those more vertical places.
When I watch like Kaizo stuff in SM64, I always just like get bored because people try like for an hour to get like one thing, and if they fail, they have to start over. Just don't like that design, so just include some shortcuts so you can alleviate that. Then the progress is always kind of happening.
Yeah, just respects your time more that way. I have a development question too. So you've been working on the N64 side for years and years and years. What is it like to be free of those limitations? This is obviously still a game that kind of looks like something from that era, but you're no longer working with that sort of hardware restriction anymore. What is that like?
Well, it's a bit more freeing, but I still kind of design the levels like I would make them as a SM64 mod. I'm just a bit more lenient with like texture sizes, make them a bit bigger if I don't want them to repeat as much. But other than that, it's somewhat still the same workflow, how I designed them.
I mean, really, you can add more things right now, because like the last ROM hack BroDute made was decades later, a kind of reimagining of the original game. And in that, I distinctly remember he was adding trees, and at some point he ran into the poly count limit. Like he couldn't add more, and he had to remove them. We don't have to deal with that anymore. We can have vertex animations, so they bobble in the wind. And you know, we don't need to have low distance models like some models far away look super ugly or something. You know, we don't have to deal with any of that.
I was just looking at how large the game is on Steam right now. I think it's around 118 megabytes. So all this more constrained N64 style look is also gonna be nice to your hard drive. This isn't a game that's gonna take up gigabytes and gigabytes. Probably won't even be an entire gigabyte when you're finally done.
Now, any aspiring 4K gamer that has a weak graphics card, this is where you start. This is where your 4K gaming journey begins.
Yeah. No, and most of that 118 gigabytes is Unity, and it's my fault actually, because when you build the game, you actually have the option to compress it. And like a dummy, I didn't check that. Everything isn't compressed. So it could be way lower as well if I were to compress it.
I will say that people who have slow computers will thank you for having slightly less long loading times, because it has to decompress, right? That does increase loading times. It's kind of a balance if you want the smaller file size or the faster speed.
Yeah, it's like we could give the person the option, but then we have to ship 2 versions of the game, and that's not going to happen. But let's say we do something like, well, I mean, we're going to put the game on Switch. So let's say we start working on the Switch version and we see that, the Switch is having trouble with loading times. Maybe we should ship the version on Switch without the compression, and then we can ship on PC with the compression, because we know PCs are going to be stronger than the Switch. Like, it's all about thinking about that.
And that Switch milestone was recently met, so that's a new thing for you guys, coming to a Nintendo console. So big congratulations for that.
Thank you. It's a dream. It's a dream come true. We hope that we can get it working on there, because my code is not perfect. I just hope the Switch is powerful enough. But even if it's not, but then we can increase that with the Switch 2, which we know it's backwards compatible. We don't know the name yet. So if the game runs on both, then that will be huge for us.
And is this just a new path for you guys? Like, you come from a ROM hacking background. Are you just going to be working on new IPs from here on?
I'm done with modding. I think BroDute is as well.
Yep.
I'm just going to see this as my 64 replacement. I've done over 20 Mario 64 hacks. I don't think I need to do more.
No, if anyone deserves to move on, it's it's you at this point.
Question actually for you, Ryan.
Oh, for me.
Yeah, I have a question for you. I know like you have done Gmod stuff in the past. Have you ever done like Mario 64 at all?
I have tried to make Mario 64 ROM hacks like 3 separate times, but I'm just notorious for not finishing things, right? Basically, my whole life, ever since I was 12, I've been constantly trying to make ROM hacks and fan games of various things. And I've always like experimented and found interesting things, but I've never really finished anything. And to work with a team instead of being solo relieves me of that. I don't have to do everything myself. I can just focus on the parts I have to do, which I can reasonably finish, instead of, having to do every single thing and some parts I don't know yet and all of that, it's...
Yeah, I feel the same. Yeah. Like, if you see a lot of projects I did if you go look at my backlog of projects, it's not a lot. Even though I could have made like dozens of ROM hacks and stuff like that. It's just, I also have trouble finishing projects. So being able to be in a team for me is just, as Ryan said, it's relieving. Like it helps being able to see things a different way and actually finish things. And it's like, I don't want to cry right now, but it's really like not a liberation, but it's just being set free in a way.
It's always really interesting watching your team dynamic as well, because like whenever I'm in a call with you guys, you're always throwing ideas at each other. Sometimes there's like a clash of ideas, but the way it all molds together always results in just the best outcome. So like, you are like an incredible team.
Thank you. I kind of, to be fair, when I approached BroDute the first time around, I was like, okay, I'm probably going to tell him like everything. Like I'm probably gonna have to teach him how to use Unity, how to make levels and everything. Like I'm gonna have to like be the manager and just like tell him everything. And then I tell BroDute to download Unity, and then the next day he's like, oh yeah, I already made 2 levels. And I'm like, what? And he learned on his own a lot, and I'm like I never had that working on a team before. Like this is amazing. And then Ryan is the same. Like it just, okay, Ryan, we need a frog model. Okay, this doesn't really look good. Can you make another one? Okay, this is perfect. There we go.
I mean, the frog model, like, it kind of went through 3 separate iterations, and let me tell you, you know that NPC character that looks incredibly goofy? That was intended to be the player character at
Oh, that's so funny.
So we repurposed it as the NPC because it looked like, it's still a frog, it just looked goofy. So you can see the shirt is the same as Kero, same with the pants. Yeah, that's why. It's because it was supposed to be... It was supposed to be Kero.
I love how much you archive stuff too. Like there's a bunch of screenshots from development and footage. It's so interesting seeing that stuff.
Oh yeah, that's a big part of it because a lot of Mario 64 players like beta stuff, as they call it. So we really wanted to save as much as we can so that those people feel fulfilled and they don't really ask us too much about development. Instead, we can just show them what development was like.
So I think we've covered quite a lot here. Is there anything else you guys just want to get out there about this game?
I like frogs.
If you don't mind it, like for people that maybe are interested to see how I make levels, I usually stream that on Twitch. If anyone is interested.
Also, if you don't care about the levels, but like a collection of 4,000 meme rip musics, you should go there as well. He has a very cool playlist.
Yeah, my playlist is something. It keeps
Especially
me sane.
if you like Toho and Gangnam Style, you know that is the place to listen.
Yeah, have you ever heard Gangnam Style with the Mario 64 sound font? Well, now you have.
All right, guys, thank you so much for setting this time aside to talk to me. And the game is coming along incredibly well. And hopefully people give the demo a chance on Steam and they can back you on Kickstarter so we can get those final stretch goals met.
I would also like to say thank you for having us. It's fun to talk. You enjoyed this.
Yeah, it's just fun to talk with you guys, yeah. Well, if you're interested, check out Kero Quest 64 right now. There'll be some links in the description. And thank you so much for watching, everybody. We'll catch you next time. Bye.